Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Genius and Smart Guy. I am Dr. Jamar Montgomery, and we
the smart guy.
are here to talk about all things politics, tech, culture, and especially and particularly crypto. Crypto is the way, my brother. Man, it has been an entire journey of Bitcoin, of crypto, and I know that it's been life-changing for myself. I know that it's been life-changing for you as well. And for those that may not necessarily be familiar with me, is I started taking college classes at 11, started full-time at 14, graduated in 19 with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, went to work for the U.S. Navy for 5 years, then left the Navy, went to work, went to school, went to law school, got my MBA while I was there, interned for the Department of Justice at the U.S. Attorney's Office. I got into Bitcoin and crypto. I heard about it in like 2012.
Okay.
Started investing in 2016, became a builder in 2017, and been in the space since then. And I know you've been in the space, what,
It's 2017.
2017? It's just incredible to now see how Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain is becoming more mainstream when it was just something that first only nerds and techies knew about.
Yeah.
And then folks like ourselves who were real early adopters got in, and now it's becoming more mainstream that now we have presidents talking about it. So with that being said, man, I know that there's some great work that you do with a couple of organizations and as well as an article that you wrote in Bloomberg.
Yeah.
So I think I want to get to the first thing is some of the work that you do with BTC
Yes, sir.
and the ABC, Atlanta Blockchain
Yeah.
Center. Go ahead, man. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So BTC, Bitcoin Transformation Community. It is founded by Justin Redrick as well as Stacy Boyle. And it's a nonprofit where we go inside of prisons and transition homes and educate them about Bitcoin, the evolution of money. And then when they get out, we try to connect them with Bitcoin mining jobs
Okay.
so that they don't go back in. And one of the things I've learned by going in there is that they actually understand Bitcoin better than the average person on the outside because they use alternative currencies on the inside.
Yep.
Whether it's cigarettes, whether it's ramen noodles, whether it's tablet points now, they are accustomed to using alternative currencies, forever stamps. They use these things to trade and to transact in the prisons. And so when you talk about Bitcoin, they already know how to use a currency outside of the US dollar. And then they're like, oh, this makes sense to us because the vast majority of people who are in prison are there for some type of financial reason, whether it's because they were robbing, they were stealing, or whether their girl was putting so much pressure on them to provide that then they got into domestic violence. The vast majority of the time, it's monetary related.
I didn't even think about it from that perspective, but yeah, that makes sense.
Correct. And so I didn't think of it either until I actually went in there. And then I went to the Norco penitentiary. And it's actually crazy because my father, he's a professor and he works at that prison. And I had no idea that he was working at a prison until I called him and I was like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Just a normal conversation. He's like, oh, you should come to my prison. And I was like, your prison? What are you talking about? And I'm finding out that he actually teaches music classes at these prisons. And so he was like, yeah, you come in there and talk about money so that we could connect how Nipsey Hussle had connected NFTs to the music industry and how he had sold his album for $100 and how that was actually a physical NFT before the digital side came about later on after he had passed. All Money In, they actually released a digital version of the NFT for anybody who had bought the physical album, which was like a physical NFT.
Yeah.
And so I was connecting those dots. That was a great experience. So big shout outs to Justin, big shout outs to Stacy for creating that nonprofit. And so that's just some of the work that we do is to educate. And then as for the ABC, I just go out there every so often on Thursdays, educate the Atlanta Blockchain Center, educate that community on taxes because they are trying to make Atlanta one of the hubs for blockchain technology. And I think that's great, especially considering how many HBCUs are down there and how many entertainers are down there.
Yeah.
I think them learning about Bitcoin, NFTs, blockchain would be huge for the entire culture in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Marlon.
Yeah. Big shout outs to Marlon and Tehran, man.
Yep.
Crypto crew.
And Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to the Atlanta Blockchain Center. That's dope, man, that you're going into the prisons and educating them about Bitcoin and about crypto. I know when I was a juvenile public defender and I was teaching my kids about blockchain and crypto and trying to get them to understand what digital currency was. And my students, when I was teaching at Southern University, I was teaching my students about blockchain and crypto and digital currency. Those that listen to me, they see me and they thank me.
Yeah.
And those that didn't listen to me are like, Doc, I wish I would have listened to you. But it is what it is.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
We see a lot of that.
Yeah.
We see a lot of that. And we see it in our own selves, right? I should have invested more. I knew I should have did this and I dragged my feet on it. Like I'm thinking of something right now because I do not want to have that. Do not want to have that FOMO and I do not want to have that regret. So that's reminding me, Q, they're a DAO, a governance.
Okay.
So that's a little tidbit for you.
Okay.
So teaching in the prisons to teach in our community at one of the hubs, Atlanta Blockchain Center. You also wrote that article in Bloomberg, man. That's major. Not like for somebody that you know to be featured in Bloomberg, talking about something that they're passionate about and providing a case for it. Can you give us the name of it was
The Hyper Bitcoinization of Money and the Future of Taxes.
And the Future of Taxes.
Yeah. And so the idea behind it was to give a visual into the future. I talked about how I got into Bitcoin, how I was actually at Vector 90. That was Nipsey Hussle's co-working space in LA. I was working out of there. And as I was leaving, I had just actually won a Techstars award. As I was leaving, I was actually planning on sending off my CPA application. And so I'm getting to the post office and I'm rushing to get there right before 5 o'clock. I'm excited because finally I get to turn in my application.
Yeah.
I've been really broke. $50 application was expensive for me.
Yeah.
And so I finally had it. I was like, man, we about to turn this in. As I'm swiping my card, putting the chip in, it says declined. And I'm like, what do you mean declined? I know I have enough for $50.
Yeah.
Like I know I had about $250 in there.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is it declining? So I was like, no, I have it. I checked my phone app, said 250 something. Go again. And she was like, it's not declined because of lack of funds. You need to call your bank. I'm like, call my bank? I'm like, oh, maybe because I'm out of state.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I've traveled a lot. Okay, cool. Just 1 second. Don't close. I'm ready to send my CPA application. I call and they're like, sorry, we've closed your bank account. I'm like, why? We can't tell you. What do you mean? I'm in another state and I don't have any other money in other places. We're sorry. We'll send you a check in 2 weeks.
I need the money now. It's my money and I need it now.
And so I can't turn in my CPA application. And I'm just like, this is terrible.
Were you on a deadline?
It wasn't necessarily a deadline, but considering I wouldn't get my check for 2 weeks, it was like
every delay.
And I'm just like, why?
Did they ever tell you why?
They never told me why. And the thing is, I never overdrafted. Of course, I didn't have a lot of money in there, but it shouldn't matter because it's my money.
Yeah.
And so all that to say is I wound up sleeping in the airport that night because I couldn't afford to try to do anything else. I had zero money. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do nothing. So I just slept at the airport. And when I got back to Texas, that's where I was living at the time, that's when I realized the power of Bitcoin because there was no middleman to prevent you from making these transactions. There was nobody to close your account. And so that was the second I realized the power of Bitcoin.
Who's the bank that closed your account?
It was Chase. Same was that closed Kanye's account. So when they closed his account, I was like, oh yeah. And the same way how whereas Nakamoto Satoshi had, it's the same way I realized the power of Bitcoin. Almost identical, but mine happened first. And I'm not a billionaire.
Absolutely.
The article was about that experience And then it was about, okay, that was my experience in the past because that happened in 2019. I wrote the article in 2022, and it was like, what's the future looking like?
Yeah.
And I feel as though pretty much everything in life is going to be tokenized, not necessarily looked at in the value of Bitcoin, but I feel like every token is going to be denominated in Bitcoin. So for instance, if you're driving your autonomous car, meaning you're not actually driving, it's just driving for you, and you want to go faster, I have a feeling that you're going to be able to spend more cryptocurrency in real time and have those other cars move out the way so that you can zoom forward. I feel as though potholes that are in the ground, they've already started it to where when you drive, you have sensors on the ground that are going to sense the potholes, and it's going to go to a third party that's going to be able to come fix the potholes. And you might get a little referral fee that saves the government a little bit of money. It gets them some money, and you're getting some money. Everybody wins. Maybe taxes might be paid through in Bitcoin. There's going to be in different types of incentives to where, say, if you recycle, you might get some extra tokens, things like that. I feel as though relationships, water, air, everything that we do in life is going to be tokenized, and all those tokens are going to be based in Bitcoin denominations,
Why Bitcoin?
because I feel as though that's going to be what backs the US dollar. I feel that's what's going to be the basis of all monetary systems because it's a limited supply. Not saying that's what people use to transact on a daily basis, because I don't think the major holders are going to sell it or give it up. But I feel like that's what it's going to be denominated in. I feel as though Ethereum is an upgrade to Microsoft. I think it's a great concept. I think it's going to blow up, but I feel like that's more of a company than a commodity.
Think so.
I believe so because you have a CEO in Vitalik Buterin,
What, the Ethereum Foundation versus
and the stakeholders. The more that you own, the more voting rights that you have,
yeah.
the more that you receive. So it seems to me like a corporate structure, but I think that is going to be big.
Yeah.
I feel as though it's going to outpace Microsoft in the long run. Just like I feel as though XRP might replace Visa. I feel like these are actual solutions to current problems. I feel like they're upgrades, but I just want to make sure it's being recognized in terms of where it's going. I feel like stable coins eventually are going to replace most fiat currencies. It might be government controlled. It might be a central bank digital currency. But all that to say is I feel as though everything in life will eventually be tokenized, and we have to get used to transacting in real time. The idea of getting paid after 2 weeks of work is going to be foreign. I think if we're not paid daily, it might be actually in real time while we're working. I think that's going to be the future. And so the article was based off of my experience in the past, where we're at right now, and what I see for the future in terms of tokenization. I call it hyper Bitcoinization, is because that's where everybody values Bitcoin more than the current system, which is mostly US dollars.
Okay, so what do you mean by tokenization, and why will things be tokenized?
Because it's an easy way to create an incentive system.
Okay.
For instance, say if you're living in a city that wants to promote healthy eating,
Okay.
if you are in that local county, the taxes that go to you, you can then incentivize people by saying, hey, if you buy from these farms, we'll actually give you some extra tokens, like a discount or a rebate or something like that, to incentivize people to eat more healthy.
Yeah.
I feel as though that's going to be a thing all around the world. And I feel like you're going to have different cities with different tokens. You're going to have environmental tokens. You're going to have traveling tokens. You're going to have so many different tokens, but they're going to be interoperable with each other because they're going to be on the same blockchains. So maybe they're on the Ethereum blockchain. Maybe they're on a different type of blockchain. I don't know which blockchains are going to be ruling or things like that, but I just feel as though everything's going to be tokenized. Everything's going to be pretty much connected to the internet, and everything that we do is going to be denominated in some type of token. And that token, I call it a token because it's on a blockchain, but it may not necessarily have its own blockchain. It might be using another blockchain, such as Ethereum. So like an ERC20 token or some type of derivative of an Ethereum blockchain.
Okay. Okay. I see. I'm more of a. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I'm a more of a Ethereum pragmatist. And what that means is that I see how Ethereum that or EVM compatible tokens and
Hmm.
EVM compatible blockchains. EVM stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine. Basically, it's like having an operating system, but people are able to make their are able to make their own, roll their own operating system off of it, but it utilizes the same programming language, but you're able to make tweaks to it. I see tokenization as happening all over the world.
Correct.
Within There's a term called real world asset tokenization. I see it as a way of creating financial instruments out of everything,
Yep.
and not just creating financial instruments out of the actual asset, but being able to actually tokenize the profits. So let's give an example of Uber
Yeah.
and Lyft, right? Or I don't know if you've used this in Atlanta, Get Her Ride.
I haven't yet.
That's a ride sharing service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try it out.
Yeah. Shout out to Jillian. Imagine being able to have a car and you tokenize the profits from the Uber.
Okay.
So somebody's getting in the Uber and you're driving for the Uber, but let's say somebody helped you buy that car
Hmm.
and you're like, look, I'll pay you a portion of my earnings,
Yeah.
but your earnings are paid out in a particular token. Your time is the time that you've spent driving is represented in a token, and your earnings are represented in a token.
Yeah.
Now, guess what I can do? I can now create an actual market for those particular tokens.
Yep.
My watches, right? My watches, J.
Yeah.
Montgomery watches are going to be on the blockchain.
Nice. Yeah.
So there's going to be a digital twin
Mhm.
or a token that accompanies this watch wherever it goes.
Okay.
And that token can be your information that you want to share with the world,
Mhm.
or it could just represent the watch itself.
Yeah.
When I think of tokenization, I'm seeing a world where we're able to transact quicker. If I don't have if I sell you something, I can sell the token for this particular thing, for this chair. I
Hmm.
can tokenize this chair, sell the token for the chair, and before the chair is delivered, I might end up selling that token
Yeah.
to somebody else. And so now the chair goes to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I can sell something before I've ever received it.
Yeah.
I know that we talked about the ownership
Correct.
earlier, and at least in Louisiana law, there's 3 levels of ownership. There's usus, fructus, and abusus,
Yeah.
and you can tokenize a portion of that ownership.
Yeah.
Usus is I get to use it,
Yeah.
and as long as I own this token, I get to use this car, right? Or fructus, which are the fruits from that thing. Let's say I made some money hauling some people in
Yeah.
the car,
Yeah.
right? I may not have rights to use the car, but I have rights to whatever money that is created from that car.
Yeah.
And abuses, right? I have the right to abuse it and do whatever the heck I wanted with it.
Yeah.
So to hear you talk about the hyper Bitcoinization of money, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's the creating more assets, and digital assets are allowing us to create markets
Correct.
and make otherwise illiquid assets more liquid.
Correct. Things that have value, but
Okay.
not a monetary value associated with it.
Okay.
S-
So help me understand if something, how explain something that has value but not monetary value.
Clean air. So in Washington, the air is extremely clean.
Okay.
Compared to LA, the air is terrible. Compared to New York City, it's terrible. So it could be one of those things where if we have like a clean air token, where if you are incentivized to not put so much pollution in the world, carbon credits, but it's going to be done through a token.
Funny you should say that. I own a carbon credit that was in HBAR.
Nice. How'd that go?
I got it while I was at the World Economic Forum not this past year, but last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has the World Economic Forum talked at all about tokenization or?
They're talking about it. They're talking about it. This year the theme was AI. Last year, the year before, they were talking about tokenization. It's a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are being tokenized right now, such as securities assets, like
Okay.
securities and stocks and things like that are being tokenized because it's faster to move those things on the blockchain than it is through the current systems. So yeah, man. Yeah, there's talk about it, definitely with real world asset tokenization. Otherwise, I'll put it like this. Tokenization has been talked about since NFTs, but NFTs became a bad word right after the Bored Apes and all that. But all it was tokenization of real, some people say art, right?
Yeah.
But really what it was tokenization of membership and access
Yeah. Yeah.
and community.
Correct.
You know what I mean? There's the financial value of a token, there's the utilitarian value of the token, and that utilitarian value might just be giving you access
Yeah.
to something. I know for myself is we've been to events where you had to hold a certain token
Correct.
or NFT in order to be able to get in.
Yep.
Because that was proof that
Yep.
you were part of it.
And
Interesting.
limiting the amount of tokens or NFTs is what helps create that value, the scarcity of it. But I think with a lot of these tokenizations, especially for the government type of tokens,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be based off of taxes and incentives. And like when I talk about the future of taxes, I don't believe it's going to be done anything close to where it's done now. I don't think it's going to be through filing 1040s and 1120s and all that type of stuff. I think that taxes are going to be done in real time. So say if you are somebody that might have diabetes or that's overweight and they want to help protect you from yourself,
Yeah.
they might say, okay, not only are you going to have a regular sales tax, but you're going to have an additional tax because you're not supposed to be eating this candy. And then they might take federal taxes based off of consumption. So then you won't have to pay taxes every year. It would be done through consumption as you're spending.
Crazy. That's crazy. I worked with a gentleman who has a patent for something called tethered money.
Tethered money. Talk to me.
Tethered money. Basically, you can tether money to certain uses. You can tether money for certain uses. And it started off as a project to help the Ukrainian people be able to have access to finance.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, what the concept was being able to be an issuer, be an issuer of digital currency, and you'll be able to tether that money to certain uses, to certain regions, to certain purposes.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you would be able to operate, you'd be able to transact, you'd be able to transact even if the internet went down.
Nice. How?
Basically,
Because that's what most people say is if the internet goes down, how is cryptocurrency going to ever work?
was based off the internet, right? So the ledger has to be updated, right? Basically, would be the same as if I had tokens, if I had tokens and I was able to take a piece of those tokens and then lock the rest of them.
Yeah.
And send them over to you.
Yeah.
And then when I sent them over to you, I sent over the key as well that allowed you to unlock them.
Yeah.
And then you had your key that locked it.
Nice. That reminds me of how like some of these deeds, like houses, are going to be put onto NFTs simply because it's easier to transition it and it eliminates the need for escrow. And yeah, I think tokenization is everywhere.
The one thing that one of the challenges with putting property records on the blockchain is you run into trouble trying to when it comes to title insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Like in states like Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
there's a thing called adverse possession.
Okay.
Adverse possession in good faith and adverse possession in bad faith. Basically, if you, let's say I have a piece of property and somebody encroaches on that property by 10 feet of my property,
Mm-hmm.
and it was done through accident or mistake, right?
Yeah.
If they do that for 10 years continuously, that becomes part of their property now.
What?
So
No.
moving forward, whereas let's say it was done in bad faith, like it was done on purpose. If they own it for 30 years, then it becomes part of theirs. It becomes their
Wow.
property then. So getting title insurance, you're having to go back and go through all the title to see, is what's being sold right now part of what was originally sold in the beginning.
Wow. Yeah.
That's that. Then on top of that, did the property go through the proper succession of ownership
Yeah.
and being able to prove that chain of ownership,
Yeah.
right? So depending on the adverse possession laws in each state is going to determine whether or not you're able to put those particular deeds on the blockchain. Once you have something that says it's verified, hey, I've gone past the adverse possession period,
Yeah.
and I can verify that the chain of title is good. Oh, then when you put it on the blockchain, then it becomes real easy to move that. You don't necessarily need escrow, right?
Yeah.
Don't have to go through all that. You already have verified the title insurance. You've already verified all that,
Yeah.
and you get to move on.
Yeah.
But you also have to look at with whatever industry that you're disrupting, how established of an industry are they? And what do they have to lose? What do they have to lose by you being a competitor?
Yeah.
Or what do you have to gain by them buying you out?
I think you're gonna see a lot of buyouts.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. And the reason why I hope so is, I'll put it like this. I hope they get bought out and the technology gets used.
Correct. Not bought out and shut up. Yeah, that'd be terrible.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting. Dude, how did you get your article in Bloomberg? I'm taking notes because I got an article that I need to
Yeah.
get written.
How did that? I think that just came through LinkedIn.
Okay.
I know her name is April. I believe it's April Phillips, but don't quote me on that. I hope it's April Phillips. Sorry, April, if I'm wrong. But she writes for Bloomberg, and she just saw the crypto articles I was putting up, and she was saying, "Hey, I think our people want to know more about this." And so she was like, "We're going to make sure we attach opinion to it, not as fact, because they don't want to be sued if something is wrong." And I was like, "That's perfectly fine." And there was a lot of revisions going back and forth because my original article was way too long. They were like, "Hey, we need to shorten this up a little bit and we need to make it more to the point." So there was a lot of revisions.
Okay.
And so I actually had my guy Dadu, shout outs to Dadu. He helped me make it into more consumable type of writing because I'm a CPA, not a writer.
Yeah.
And so I brought him on. He helped me write it. And once it was done, put it out there. And it was crazy. I think right after that, I was in a couple books. And I didn't ask to be in either one of those books. My name just popped up and I was like, oh, wow. And I don't want to say his name wrong either, but Jason Mayer, the progressive Bitcoiner.
Yeah.
I was in that book. And then Dadu, I was in his book, Stacking Sats is the New Black. And so it was like, wow. All at the same time, it was like, I've got articles, I'm in books. And it was like, it's getting real.
Yeah.
And so I thank God for the opportunity and I continue to try to do my best. And here we are.
Hey, thank you, Yahweh. Absolutely.
That part.
Absolutely. Dope, man. That's incredible. That's incredible. That is incredible. Oh, I haven't been featured in Bloomberg yet.
Man, this is the guy who was talking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and meeting with Kanye and Trump. Don't let him fool you, man. That's why he's got the genius up there.
Oh, I'll say this. I was featured on Hedera.
Okay.
Speaking on a panel with the Hedera co-founder.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Lehman Baird.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that?
Oh, man, incredible. I was asked to speak on the panel. Me and Dr. Lehman had a great 2.5 hour conversation.
Nice.
Talking about blockchain, AI, self-replicating systems, like just what we saw the future to be, what Elon Musk was doing, just
Yeah.
everything, man. So it was great. And to be there at the World Economic Forum, Kerry Kennedy came to see me speak.
Okay. Kennedy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So she came to see me speak. Some folks who had worked for the Federal Reserve, New York AG and District Attorney's Office, some
yeah,
people were there.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Let me get that notebook real quick. Now, how did you get the opportunity to speak at the World Economic? Because most people don't even know what the World Economic Forum is. That's like the top of the top. That's even beyond like governments and stuff. So
It
how did
is.
that happen?
Bruh, this was my second year going.
Okay.
This was my second year going. Last year, I was speaking, and I was speaking on utilizing blockchain in politics,
Yeah.
a platform called A Better Democracy.
Okay.
And this year, I was going, last year, I was sponsored to go by a company, a crypto metaverse company, Seek. Then this year, I was asked to speak.
Lovely.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
asked to speak. I've always been in Hedera.
Yeah.
I got excited about Hedera the same way that I got excited about Ethereum.
Got you. Okay. And why such excitement?
It allowed for, when we're talking about utilizing AI and we're talking about data, it's how you structure your data.
Okay.
And do you structure your data in a way that it is easier for you to gain insights?
Got you. Data points.
Hashgraph allows for that.
Okay.
It allows for a much more, it's gossip about gossip, meaning that I'm, instead of having to go down the line and
Mhm.
analyze,
Mhm.
I'm able to start seeing where certain hashes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Certain data is where it shows up in different places.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for me to be able to do that. And it lower transaction costs, right? High throughput of transactions, and it's designed for enterprise.
Got you.
So being able to have a EVM compatible block distributed ledger,
Mhm.
right? That now makes it easier for data structures
Mhm.
to create more accessible data structures so that you can gain better insights from your data.
Yeah. I think I was talking to. So, are you familiar with DPIN?
Yes.
Okay. What do you know about DPIN? Is that something that you understand thoroughly?
DPIN, what does DPIN stand for?
It's decentralized physical, because you had mentioned your
Infrastructure.
watch was going to be on the blockchain as well, but it's decentralized physical. I forget what the
I know
last two words are.
DPIN usually deals with like I don't know why the name is escaping me, but the routers,
Yeah.
the internet routers
Mhm.
and physical products and physical infrastructure.
Correct.
I think those work great for services,
Okay.
for service
Not
related.
products.
Eh, it- there might be there's applications for it,
Mhm.
but I would say that it's much better suited for infrastructure and services.
Got you. Got you. Okay. Yeah, because I'm still learning that. Like, it feels as though every year there's something brand new that pops up.
I'm going to tell you what's going to zero knowledge. Zero knowledge proofs.
I know I've studied
ZK
these.
syncs, that's where the new wave is going to be.
Hmm.
And the reason why is because it allows for greater privacy.
Okay.
And as we see
We need
more
that.
enforcement coming on, privacy, you're going to be paying for privacy. So
Which
there's
is.
one thing for being pseudonymous, right? And it's
Hmm.
another thing having even greater privacy and being able to transact that way.
Yeah.
The one challenge that we always have is the off-ramping. But if you're able to off-ramp, if you're able to off-ramp into Bitcoin
Yeah.
and then off-ramp that way,
Yeah.
you might be saving yourself. So
Yeah.
think about it in this perspective. If it is difficult to track when you off-ramp off of like secret
Hmm.
to from that cost basis, if there's only I'm off-ramping $65,000
Hmm.
and I got it for 64,
Yeah.
but you don't know what I originally bought the secret for and traded it for.
Correct. That's the same concept.
It's the same concept.
I didn't know that.
I'm saying that's when we're talking about privacy, I think that now people who have been in the space who are trying to avoid tax burden,
Avoid is good.
who are trying to avoid tax burdens, who are trying to transact in private manners,
Yeah, yeah.
I believe that'd be a strategy. But zero knowledge proofs just from a transaction perspective of speed of transactions and not clogging up the blockchain.
Yeah,
That's one.
yeah.
Two, being able to offload in a more private manner.
That's important.
Yep.
That's very important. Because I don't think it's always just about the tax thing. I think also it's, well, it's about just not having everybody know your business. What if you're trying to get a surprise for a loved one, or you're trying to do something big, you're trying to make a big move, you don't want everybody knowing your money. Because think about it, if you have 20 million in a bank and you move 15 of it ready to prepare for something, somebody might say something.
The bank is probably going to say something to you
Yeah.
and want to know why you want to move your money.
But not just to you, but somebody who's working at that bank, they now know
Yeah.
what just happened.
Yeah.
You have that ability for it to have somebody who's faculty
Yeah.
say something that they shouldn't say.
Yeah.
But if you have a peer-to-peer direct, nobody even knows
Yeah.
that you're preparing for it, and then it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, your article is definitely, I remember when you wrote it, and I remember reading it, and I was real proud of you, dude,
Thank you.
with that. What are some final thoughts that you want to leave the people with?
I think we should all be studying tokenization, but blockchain, the thing is, whether it's tokens, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Ethereum, they're all based in blockchain. So I think we should all be studying blockchain. And it's not just monetary blockchains. You also have Epic software, which is like for the medical field blockchain, so they can have all the medical records.
Yeah.
We talk about voting possibility, to where voting might be done on a blockchain through a digital ID. The blockchain is what's revolutionary.
Yep.
And I think as though we should all be studying that. And then we might have our own predictions, because maybe it's not hyper Bitcoinization. Maybe it's hyper Ethereumization.
Trying to tell you it's going to be Ethereum.
But I still think it's Bitcoin, and that's what I wrote the article on. But we'll see. We won't know until the future.
Who you going to trust, the genius or the smart guy?
Oh man, that's a good one.
Nah, much respect, much respect. The reason why I say Ethereum, and these are my final thoughts, is because Bitcoin definitely has a lot of the mind share, but Ethereum has more of the market share in terms of more development, right? More use cases, more applications. Everything that most of what you're seeing written is basically anything that's being created is usually EVM. Now, because of Bitcoin's kind of clunky nature, it makes it more of an asset.
Correct.
Of an asset. Do I see things being backed in Bitcoin? U.S. currency? No, I don't see that. Do I see countries like El Salvador, Venezuela? Do I see them exploring countries that are under heavy sanctions, that are locked out of the U.S. dominated global financial system? Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I see that. I see that happening. But I do not believe that the central bankers of the world are comfortable with opening up their currencies to an attack vector. Bitcoin becomes any crypto in general. If you open it up to your financial system, that now becomes an attack vector.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's something that you do not fully control.
Yeah.
And the open or the closed secret amongst the cryptographic community is that the Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchains have already been cracked.
They've been cracked?
Let me put it like this. The algorithm has already been cracked. It's based off of the SHA-256 algorithm, which was developed by the NSA.
Yeah.
As we start to see more quantum computing coming on board, that these that it's based off an elliptical curve, which means if it's an elliptical curve, then that means that it's deterministic,
Yeah. Yeah.
which means that just with enough computing power, and so now that we have quantum computing coming online, your financial system is also utilized in warfare.
Yeah. Whew.
So
Yeah.
why you're not going to open up your having Bitcoin, having crypto in general as part of your a major or significant part of your financial system is a national security risk. So that's why I don't see it. However, quantum resistant digital currencies, do I see that possibly happening?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And those are one of some of the things that I worked on as well.
Yeah. That's dope. No, I like that.
So my final, in terms of Bitcoin or Ethereum, I don't see either one of them necessarily, but it is more likely for countries that are under financial sanctions to look towards them and utilize, and countries utilizing it.
And I think things are going to be denominated in Bitcoin, meaning you might go to a store and it says $5, but also might have /X amount of Satoshis. Satoshis are a fractional piece of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because I believe that that's what everybody's going to go based off of, is that standard of Bitcoin, because there's only 21 million to ever be created. But that's what the article's about. Make sure y'all check out that article.
Hybrid Bitcoinization of Money and the Future of Taxes.
Yes, sir.
By CJ Charles Kelly.
Yes, sir. Dr. Jamar Montgomery.
Hey, to watch Doc.
There you go. Make sure you get you one.
Get you a J Montgomery once again.
Yeah.
New money gets you a Rolex. Old money gets you a Patek, but smart money gets you a J Montgomery.
There you go.
Hey.
Swag.
Thank you, everyone. This has been absolutely great. Glad that you got a lot of value, got a lot of information out of this episode, but it does you no good if you don't apply it and if you do not share it. So share this information. And you know what? We don't want your great granny to be a hoe. We don't want you to be in poverty no more. You can tell I'm crashing right now.
That's okay.
But what is it? As the great philosopher Kendrick Lamar said, we don't want to hear about poverty no more.
Something like that.
Something like that, or whatever Kendrick Lamar said. Thank y'all for tuning in for another episode of Genius and Smart Guy. Y'all take care. My man.
Definitely.